Hello everyone. If athletes in the 60s and 70s of the last century had been told what top bodybuilders would look like in 2024, they would probably have been surprised. But this applies to the open bodybuilding category. There are other divisions, and there are more than aesthetic athletes. And I'm not saying that bodybuilding has reached a dead-end stage of development. Every time has its own heroes, but there are legends beyond the generation of time. Their contribution to the development of the industry, their images and influence on contemporaries are undeniable, and their appearance is impressive regardless of changing trends and criteria. One of those athletes was Bill Pearl. He lived 91 years, a long and really eventful life. It is worth making full-fledged documentaries about such personalities. In this video, I will give only brief facts from his biography without any pretensions to a detailed review. Even such a material would allow many to learn more about this legendary athlete. Bill was born during the Great Depression into a large, poor family. They often had to move. The future Mr. Universe started training as a child. He was 9 years old and his brother, 3 years older than Bill, was always bullying him. The motivation was simple: to become stronger and fight back. It was the end of the 30s, the beginning of the 40s. There was nowhere to train, and no exercise equipment could be found. Someone who would give advice on training, too. The only help came from publications and magazines, of which there was a minimum. Bodybuilding has not gained popularity yet. What did Bill train with? This is a separate story. In 1942, he saw an ad in a magazine training kit. A small barbell, dumbbells, and other accessories for $22.95. Bill worked all summer, collected the amount, placed the order, but the Second World War continued. The production of sports equipment was put on pause. Young Pearl eventually received his order, but only in the 45th, 3 years later, when he turned 15, and after such a long wait, he still did not have enough money to pay for the delivery. Bill was helped by a friend, and the agreement was to share dumbbells and a barbell and train together. However, after that, a friend stopped training, so the whole kit was eventually at Bill's disposal. Bill Pearl kept the same training set in his basement until the last. Plus, stones and other heavy things were used. Bill liked the training of the predecessors of the current strongmen, the strongmen of the old school. He partly imitated Eugene Sandow, John Gramick. They were heroes to young Bill. He dreamed of becoming just as strong. In the following years, Bill trained as best he could. In the 50th year, he was drafted into the Navy. Part of it was located in San Diego. Pearl also visited a real gym for the first time there. He was so impressed that he dreamed of returning to San Diego one day after his service and training there. Progress in terms of form and strength was very slow, and there was no understanding of how to train. Scraps of data, individual journal clippings, that's it. I had to experiment. Bill meticulously kept notes, like a training diary. This habit remained with him until his old age. But the main thing is the opportunity to train in a real gym. For Pearl, it was like Disneyland for a child. It was the gym of Leo Stern, a significant man in the history of world bodybuilding, a pioneer in the development of gyms and the culture of training in them. Subsequently, Lou Ferrigno, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and other famous athletes trained in the same gym. It was from Leo Stern that Bill got his first knowledge about training. He mentored him at first, and he was later the author of some of Bill's best pictures. Bill also performed at a local tournament in San Diego for the first time. He took the third place. But a year later, he won several significant tournaments at once, including Mr. California, Mr. America, and Mr. Universe. It was amazing. Just 2 years after serving in the Army, Bill becomes a bodybuilding star at its initial stage of development. Then Bill went to Sacramento and opened his gym there, trying to repeat and continue Leo Stern's ideas during the day. The history of his performances is a separate topic. He won the title of Mr. Universe of the NABA Federation among professionals 4 times, the most prestigious tournament in the 60s. Among his main rivals, another star of those years is Reg Park. The legendary history of the Mr. Olympia tournament will begin a few years later. Bill never played in that tournament, but he did cross paths with Arnold Schwarzenegger on the same stage. It was 1967. Arnold won the NABA Mr. Universe Amateur Tournament. Bill won the Pro Tournament. As a result, they are standing side by side in the pictures. An experienced champion and a young star, they didn't compete with each other. In fact, these are 2 different generations in bodybuilding. Bill's competitive weight was about 106 kilograms at 175 centimeters tall. His arms were about 53 centimeters in girth. As for his performance, 140 kilograms in the head bench press, 145 kilograms army bench press, 205 kilograms bench press, 225 kilograms frontal squat, and 275 kilograms classic squats. In the same year, 67, Bill ended his career. He was 37 years old, and 2 years later Bill became a vegetarian and continued to maintain muscle mass. It would not be superfluous to remind you that there are several varieties of vegetarianism. By the way, a few years before that, he had practiced as much as possible the opposite diet. Only meat, vegetables, water, and lots of protein powder. According to various sources, he used such a diet in preparation for the competition. But rumors that he was simply afraid of the competition of the young and avoided defeat forced him to take the stage again in 1971. And with that victory, he finally secured his status as an exceptional athlete. It is said that that year Joe Weider, as the head of the IFBB and the creator of Olympia, imposed a ban on performances in other federations under threat of disqualification just to exclude the participation of the young Schwarzenegger in Mr. Universe, who could well have conceded to that aged but very motivated Bill. Pearl was determined to end his career with a victory, and that would have hurt Arnold's star image. Anyway, Pearl beat Sergio Oliva at the Mr. Universe NABA tournament that year. Frank Zane, Chris Dickerson, and other famous athletes who were disqualified from the Olympics. And Arnold literally won the Mr. Olympia title without competition in 1971. Bill opened gyms and also developed as a coach and mentor. For example, he acted as a mentor for Chris Dickerson, whom he had beaten on stage in the past and who would later become the winner of the Mr. Olympia title. He also prepared 10 future champions of the Mr. Universe and 8 Mr. America tournaments. Bill has also been a mentor for top-level athletes for many years. But still, Pearl looked bigger. Bill trained the employees of an airplane manufacturing company and some astronauts. By that time, he had already realized that workouts, including strength training, can be a source of good profit if they are properly applied. He grew up as an athlete among athletes to the core, for whom bodybuilding was everything. But after that, Bill discovered that it was much more profitable to train people for whom training was only part of achieving a certain goal. Even in his gyms, Bill allocated part of the area for fans of heavy training, and the rest of the areas were intended more for fitness and training specifically for health, rather than sports purposes. Here's what Steve Green, who knew Bill personally, said in his video. Working out at the Pasadena gym with Bill and the other guys was incredible. There have always been many famous athletes in that gym. They often trained there in the morning, and they often came to get advice from Bill. Arnold, Casey Viator, Dennis Tenorino. Yes, Dennis also trained with us in the mornings. Unfortunately, he was gone too. In general, there were always a lot of tough guys there. They shared valuable tips. It was an ideal training environment. I couldn't fully appreciate it at the time. I was in my 20s. But now, looking back on those days years later, considering how people who didn't even know Bill personally speak about him simply because of his reputation, and I think to myself, wow. And I've been training with him. He personally wrote me a training program, which I followed for almost 10 years. It was something special at a very special time. Bill has been working on his bodybuilding encyclopedia called Keys to the Inner Universe. For 4 years, it contained comprehensive answers and recommendations for anyone who wanted to learn how to train different muscles. As for the book for 4 years, Bill devoted several hours every day to this encyclopedia, which later became a bestseller, but far from Bill's only book. He is also the author of numerous articles in bodybuilding and fitness magazines, and has conducted seminars around the world. Indeed, the face of bodybuilding is a man who deserves to represent an entire industry. But working with the level of customer care and commitment to the process that Bill professed eventually tired him out. The business took up all his time, so Pearl decided to change his business. He moved to Oregon and opened a sports equipment store. In parallel, he continued to give seminars around the world, participated in the opening of halls and educational conferences. Returning to Bill's performances, I have already mentioned his rival Rich Park, who was one of Schwarzenegger's idols. And in 2004, Bill, a member of the Bodybuilding Hall of Fame, received a special award for exceptional achievements from Arnold Schwarzenegger to a standing ovation from the crowd.
An outstanding bodybuilder, as a matter of fact, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all times. A man that has inspired millions and millions around the world to train with weights and get healthy. A man that has written endless amount of fitness books. And he is one of my idols. Ladies and gentlemen, bring out Bill Pearl. Big hand for Bill Pearl.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, buddy. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So we're going to read this back. Thank you. No. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
In 2016, Pearl was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And in April 2022, Bill was hospitalized after an accident with a lawnmower. Doctors diagnosed a compression fracture of the spine. Pearl underwent a lengthy operation. A few days later, injuries were found in the cervical region. There was also an infection of the body. And already on September 14th of that year, Bill was gone. His wife reported that he had died in the morning. Pearl died peacefully in his bed. Here are a few thoughts from Bill that I would like to give you in the end. I think we need to forget about the cosmetic aspects of weight training, the girth of our arms, and the percentage of subcutaneous fat that so many people care about. And instead, pay more attention to health as a goal, and don't expect too much from exercise. Make your relationship to training more holistic in order to be able to wake up every new day and find time to communicate with other people, not just yourself. But this requires sufficient energy. Bill believed that you can't fully take care of someone if you can't take care of yourself. That a person's irresponsible attitude towards himself is the root cause of many troubles in his life. I sympathize with the people who come to gyms nowadays. They go to the locker rooms, put on headphones, turn on the music, and go to the treadmill. They don't say anything and they don't look at anyone. They walk along the track for 15 to 20 minutes, perform several exercises, take off their headphones, return to the locker room, and leave the gym. This is the biggest mistake these people can make. Neither hello nor bye, no one recognizes anyone, they don't even cross eyes. It's like a ridiculous joke, especially for me. I'm sorry. I wouldn't want to live like this. I train at home in a big old barn in the backyard. And there wasn't a day that I didn't slam the barn door shut and thank him for how much training they gave me at home. Every day, when I close the door to it, I turn around and say thank you. If you liked the video, please support the project with a like and subscribe to the channel. Sports Guru was with you. See you later.